It's okay for people to get angry, man. It's okay for us to react and go to our shadow self. Like, that happens. It's when it happens too often. It's when it happens, too consistently, when there's no commitment to change.
Hey everyone, my name is Pete Ferrari. Welcome to the SuperSelf Podcast Series. We are probably going to have a ton of fun today. We've got Stefanos Sifandos with us. He is a relational teacher. He's a behavioral scientist, and he really focuses on personal development, healing trauma, getting in touch with the nervous system, and good old-fashioned man-woman dynamics. So I hope that we dive in here and get a little racy. It should be interesting. I know that for the better part of 2 decades almost, he has been working with good folks everywhere to help them understand their traumas, the relationship with the nervous system that has, and really how to make better connections through relationships that focus on the self. This guy's worked with thousands of people all over the globe. Special operators in the military, CEOs, good old-fashioned people like you and me, couples, Olympic gold medalists, championship boxers. So got to be a ton of experience packed in there. I'm looking forward to really getting into that today. His new book, Tuned In and Turned On, awesome title. It talks about breaking patterns and getting in touch with your nervous system, reawakening your sexuality in order to find better connections. So I'm going to push a little bit today because I think we can have some fun here. And Steph, welcome aboard, my friend. I'm looking forward to this.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Cool. So in the book, you talk about, and this is where I want to start because it's really an interesting concept. You talk about how trauma and the nervous system itself impacts intimacy and attraction. So how does that manifest? How does trauma and the nervous system kind of combine to manifest itself into our relationships? Because I think that's super important that not a lot of people probably know.
Yeah, simply put, when we're busy surviving, there's no thriving in life, right? It's when our base survival needs need to be met because we feel we're under threat constantly. And this is more unconscious. It lives in the body. We're hypervigilant. It's very difficult to be curious. It's very difficult to be compassionate. It's very difficult to be even attracted. And the attraction that we do have usually ends up being a compensation. So it feels a little shallow, it feels hollow, and it feels empty. In other words, we need more of it. It becomes an addiction. It becomes a compensatory survival strategy. And so we're not really opening to the world. We're closed. Because you just think about it, like when you're in a fight, right? And you're getting hit or you're getting hurt, you shell up, you close up. That's what we do in life, in relationships. We close to the world. We don't trust people. We can't be open and real because we're scared that we're going to be rejected. We're scared that we're going to be humiliated or judged or ashamed. These are things that often happened in our past that we haven't really recovered from, that still lives in our nervous system. We didn't feel what needed to be felt to move it out of our bodies and out of our minds, so to speak, or actually process it accordingly. And so it lives in every relationship. It lives in every action, every thought that we have. And we're constantly pacing. We're constantly looking at the world. Is this person a threat? Is that person a threat? We may not be saying it verbally, but we're feeling it. And so we close off. And people sense that, like just through their own neuroception, which is how their nervous systems or our nervous systems interact with our environment and the world at large. And so that becomes problematic when we want to be close to someone. We want intimacy. We want to be seen. We want to be loved. And Tony Robbins speaks to this a great deal, actually. We want to be understood and appreciated and respected. We want to contribute to the world. We want to be able to receive the gifts of the world. But we can't do it because we don't feel safe. That becomes a problem. And we've got these contradictions that are living within us, which builds frustration and anger and animosity and projection. So you can see this downward spiral of unhealthy relating that takes place.
That's super interesting. So this can go back all the way potentially to childhood, unfaced trauma from going back decades and decades.
Yes.
And it just continues to, it probably on some level, especially nowadays when everybody is so judgy and we're so faced with cancel culture and we're so faced with wokeness, that's got to compound or at least further bury the trauma, making it even harder to unclench and open up. Even if you wanted to, even if you were introspecting and meditating and trying to find self-awareness, we've got all these forces around us telling us we're in peril. And it's just shutting us down even more and more, where we never can peel back that onion enough layers to get to that trauma. I'm sure that you're seeing that more and more nowadays. Am I right about that?
Yes, I agree with that and I resonate with that, and I do see it more and more. And part of that is because the healing process, or the journey back to wholeness, or remembering that we're beautiful as we are, we're amazing as we are, we're not broken, right? It needs to be a relational process, because most wounds or most pain that we experience, fears, abuse, etc., it happens in a relational context. So it needs to heal in a relational context. When it happens during our childhood, during those formative years, we're very susceptible to the world around us. We're also very self-referential. So in other words, what that means is that if, quote unquote, bad stuff happens, or unpleasant stuff, intensity is experienced in our body and mind complex, we register that often as, oh, that's our fault, or we're contributing to that. And so our self-worth then lowers. Fast forward into a society where you've got to be careful what you say. Otherwise, call it cancel culture, sure, but it's shaming, right? It's prejudice, it's oppression, it's being told you're wrong for having an idea, it's a limiting self. All the old stuff that's unresolved, that is on the periphery of that or resembles that, rejection, humiliation, abuse, etc., comes to the surface. So we clam up. And so now we're wearing masks and we're not really being ourselves. And so there's no real opportunity to heal any of that stuff, because we don't trust the people in our lives to hold us and actually not judge us, because society at large is quite judgmental. Again, this becomes another problem in how we relate and how we do intimacy.
Man, this is a connection that I hadn't really thought about in accordance with myself. And I've obviously done research on you, looked into the book's great. But so my dad was killed when I was 10 years old. I spent a ton of my life in poverty. I had no one to guide me. I got my ass kicked every day through high school, no self-esteem, no guidance, no self-worth. Well, I've never really contended with that. I'm going to be 60 this year. I've never had a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor or a specialist like you. I've never dealt with it. And what's happened in the past few years, and I'm divorced now, I was married for almost 20 years, but in the past few years, where the cancel culture thing has become so strong, even talking to a woman, because the way the woman responds nowadays, it's like, you're a toxic male, get the fuck away from me. Knowing all of these dynamics, I'm more reclusive right now than I've ever been. I'm even in my life. So you talk about clinching up. I'm clinching up like in my home, and I'm not venturing out. I haven't gone out in a couple of years. I haven't been on a date in a long time. And I wonder, there's got to be a relationship there. The self-esteem thing for me was huge for a big part of my life. I don't want to get kicked in the nuts by some girl if I ask her out. That's just the way I am. And so I've got to contend with that. And I'm sure you could be of assistance there.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing that. And I appreciate your honesty and your openness, which, in other words, just being vulnerable, just being really real, and putting yourself out there and putting a real version of you in the world that can now be criticized. I'm not going to criticize you, of course, but obviously this goes out and it reaches many people. Yeah. You're so accurate with what you're saying in terms of all, and I'm sure you've just given me a snapshot of some of the childhood experiences, which alone are very intense. Your father passing away when you were 10, and I don't know the circumstances by which he passed. And he was killed
in a drug-related incident.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of shit, man. There, brother.
Yeah, a lot of shit, man. And that's not just like a one-off singular incident. Think about the lifestyle you were living, what was happening with your mother, obviously bullying, being beaten up. All of that is going to compound. And as you said, you have the awareness to say, okay, I haven't really dealt with that stuff. I haven't faced that stuff. Brother, you better believe that absolutely in some way, shape or form, it is going to impact how you show up today. And so the reclusion that you have, or the sort of shutting off from the world and closing down, is fed by that and amplified by that. It's not caused by that solely, but it is amplified by that. So if you can imagine, for decades, you said you're nearly 60, for 50 plus years, that stuff's been living in your nervous system. Imagine being free of that and actually genuinely being able to be open. And maybe that is even a really difficult thing to imagine. We don't have to go there just yet. But imagine this. Imagine small changes in your life that aren't coming from like a fear of being seen or a threat from the outside world or avoiding some uncomfortable future situation. That is a game changer for so many people.
it would be a game changer because I'm not a bad guy, Steph. I'm pretty cool. I mean, I'm kind of funny. I'm pretty fucking charming, but I never give myself a chance. And the thing is, because I've been through so much, and you talk about the family thing, and I'll just go further. My mother tweaked out when my father was killed, and she developed her own problems with addiction and other stuff. And so I just have always had this uncomfortable feeling, and that's really, I can see now how it's manifesting, and I'm definitely not putting myself out there. It's like you said, it's not the cause of it, but it really exacerbates it. And now that you've made that connection, I can see it. And the weird thing is, you talk about being in fight or flight mode in the book, and in my life, so when I was a junior in high school, I started lifting weights to put on some muscle so that I could give back the beatings I was getting. And really, ever since I've been a junior in high school, I've been lifting now for 45 years. I fight. I am not a flight guy. I've never been. I take my life by the nuts, whether I'm right or wrong. I am hardcore fight guy. But with what we're talking about right now, I think I'm a flight guy. And so I never thought about that, but you're telling me, and I'm telling you that I think you're right. I pride myself on being a fighter, but I think I might be a flighter, and that's got to be recognized. And I'm giving you a glimpse into this because I have a feeling there's a lot of people out there, maybe not the same exact circumstances, but similar circumstances where connections can be made easily. That's kind of why I'm going here. We can be both, I think. We can be fight and we can be flight. So I'd love a glimpse into that, man. I think it'd be super helpful.
So again, I think you're very accurate with what you're sharing. And from the place of, let me try and tie a bow on it from this place. So if we look to nature moves in homeostasis. Like it thrives when it's in homeostasis, and it's constantly navigating towards that. So if it's too cold in an environment, an animal will try and make itself warm. We do the same thing, right? And we're constantly trying to find balance. It's the same, I believe, in every expression, every area of life. At some point, so the macro, so the micro, and the macro, at some point over time, we want to create some level of harmony and expression and being, right? And so if you're a fighter in most areas of your life, it's natural to assume from my perspective that there will be areas that you are a quote unquote flighter, or where you run away from. And so let me ask you this. In business, in your vocation, your career, your purpose, would you say you bring a lot of fight energy?
Man, I've been building companies for 40 years. I'm in the process of building my 5th company in the 4th different industry. And I started my first company when I was 22, flat broke. I'll tell you what, man, I've got the fucking cunning of a wolf from what I've been brought up in, and I'm never down and I'm never out. And I think you knew the answer to that question before you even asked it.
And I promise you, I've done no research on it. And when I'm doing these podcasts, I jump on, I feel the person. We're in conversation right now. I have no idea about your life, and I genuinely mean that. And so you have been aggressive. You have taken the bulls by the horn. Now, part of that has been in retaliation to your childhood. Like you said, I started lifting weights. I wanted to give back what I was getting. I didn't want to suffer anymore. Now, other people they just continue in the cowardice, or they continue in the passivity, or they continue suffering, they continue taking it. You didn't. And so as a result of that, you also went out into the world and, big thing, like I'm going to show the world who I am. I'm going to show how good I am. I'm going to show how powerful and strong I am. I lost my father. My mother's an addict. She neglected me. She abandoned me, but that's okay. I'm going to show the world how amazing I am. Right? And I'm going to do it by seeking validation and approval. 5 businesses in 5 different industries, phenomenal, right? With exits, phenomenal, right? I'm assuming there's exits there, unless you still have them.
All through to event,
Even that in and of itself, just going through the process of an exit, not an easy thing, totally different to actually building a business. So these massive skill sets that you've developed that are appreciated and applauded by the world, it reinforces self-esteem, the self-esteem that you lost when you were younger, the validation you didn't receive when you were younger. And it still isn't enough, because those original wounds haven't been addressed. And so you'll continue building business and you continue being a bull as long as you can.
Yep.
So back to the point around, there's so much fight energy, so much doing energy, there needs to be some retraction. And so in intimacy, where it's not actually safe for you, you're safer in a hostile corporate environment. You're safer in being on the streets, because it's familiar to you, and but put you, like you said, with a woman where you're, hey, is this an opportunity for my heart to open? Can we actually share something intimate and special and connected? Fuck that, I'm out.
Yep.
It's too intense, right? I see this with operators. I see this where they can be in the most, fighters. They can be in the most dangerous, life-threatening situations.
with
Or put them with, back with their families or with their woman, and it's chaos. They can't be with that, and so they move to avoidance strategies where you can call it flying, right? There's nothing wrong with you, man. I want to be very clear here. There's nothing wrong with you. You've done nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not a scared. I mean, look, does a scared little boy live within you? Absolutely. Within me too, within all of us. Right? We're just big adults walking around regressed as little children that live in all of us, right? The little children that feel unresolved and unprocessed and not heard and not seen. Your first example of real intimacy, man, with a woman, the core feminine in your life, was a mother that abandoned you. And I don't know what was happening prior to those 10 years. Like, how available was she? Maybe she was really available and then switched. Maybe she wasn't at all. Like, all of that plays a very critical part in your development, in how you are with women, how you are with yourself, with your own inner feminine, with your own sense of self and affection and intimacy and all of that. And so, man, like, you're touching on something really deep here, and I'd invite you into moving beyond just awareness and say, like, what does it look like to take meaningful action to change some of this? Because I would say, and this is one of the biggest fear people like yourself have, and I don't mean to categorize you. When I say people like yourself, let me be clear what I'm saying. People that have created success in the world, outwardly projected success, that the world says, man, look at this guy, 5 businesses, different industries, very competent. Like, that's what I mean by people like you, just to be very clear, right? You've created a lot of success. The challenge is that most people think, if I change the way I am inside, I'll stop creating success. And we have the compulsions and addictions towards success, but we also have the habitual nature of it because it's embedded within us. We are also validated and approved, which feels good. And the greater the pain, the greater the pleasure required, man, to mitigate the pain. And if we're holding on to pain that's unconscious, you better believe it, you're building pleasure in your life, right? In certain validation. Pleasure is not just, sensory pleasure. It's validation, it's approval, it's psychological, as well as it is emotional and physical. And so the fear is that, I'm going to let all that go. Maybe, but if you do let it go, it's because you actually want to and you're not going to be fussed about it. But you also don't have to let it go. You can also just your come from shift, so it stops being compensatory. In other words, the business that you build is actually enough. I'm not saying you won't build more, but you actually gain satisfaction from it. You actually acknowledge yourself and you're proud of yourself in a healthy way. You're inspired by yourself. You're acknowledging the great things that you've done, not saying to yourself, what's next? Or I'm a piece of shit, or this isn't enough, right? And so that shifts because the come from within you shifts when you actually address this stuff. If self-awareness was all we needed, the world would still be in disharmony, but it would be a very different place. But we need more than awareness.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because we talk a lot about self-awareness on this podcast. I spend a lot of time on that with me just because I just like to try to make myself better and try to understand myself. But without subsequent steps, some kind of a roadmap, and this is where your book comes in and becomes instrumental, without some kind of a roadmap to take it from self-awareness into a healthier lifestyle, better health and well-being, then it's good, but it's not existential. And I think for me, at least, existential is what I want. It's strange because everything you're saying just rings so true. It's funny, you can tell you've done this before and you've worked with people like me because you're just calling it. Everything you're saying is spot on. And for me, it's bizarre because I would love nothing more than to have a ride or die by my side. I know how to take care of a woman, man. I'm telling you what, want for nothing, treat her with respect, complete equal. Shit goes down, I'm slapping somebody. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm an alpha male. I know how to take care of a woman and do it right without being a bully about it, without expecting anything in return. Just old school Sicilian fucking man. I'd love nothing more than to be giving that to somebody. it would be so cool to have somebody to sit next to on the couch. It'd be so fucking cool. I was married for almost 20 years, and I had it for a lot of that time, and the shit went haywire. But nowadays, because, again, we talked about it, because of the social components nowadays and how much the world has changed in 25 years, man, it's unnerving.
Yeah. So let me give you a first trigger, so to speak, right? It's convenient for our personalities and our egos. And by the way, I'm not into calling people out or any shit like that. I'm just not into that. But I do want to call you forward into something, because you feel and you seem very open, right? Like,
yeah,
very
man.
open
Hit me.
Yeah, I love
Steph,
that, man. Like,
I've got thick skin, man. Hit
humbled.
me.
Yeah, but you're also just, you're not, the energy I'm getting from you is not someone that, I know everything and you can't tell me shit. Clearly, that's not who
I'm
you
hungry.
are. So yeah, I want to invite you into something. It's convenient for our personalities to magnify and amplify what's happening in the world around us. Like, social media. Yeah, and all of it, what you're saying is true. Social media, politics, cancel culture, none of that is not true. But it's convenient for our personalities to go there into this big thing that's outside of us, that's out of our control, right? That we can't really affect change. It's convenient. Yep. And
it's justification.
Of course it is. But what does that do? It keeps you playing small. It keeps, like, you're consciously saying with clarity, this is what I want. I would love nothing more than this. But your personality, your ego is saying, that shit's scary. We're not going back there.
100%.
So we're just going to make these reasons. I'm busy building business. Cancel culture's fucked.
Yep.
Other things are happening in the world. There's no time for that. I'll get to it. And it's convenient. But here's the thing. Every time you go there, it's just a convenient excuse of the ego. It's a way to control your circumstances, because it's impossible to impact and affect cancel culture. You're going to make a difference there. It's impossible to change the algorithms of social. It's not impossible, but it's very improbable, right? No, improbable, I should say. It's not going to happen, and it's unproductive. So when you're noticing doing that, come back into your body, smile, and go, there's my personality trying to protect me, living in fear. So what would be an opposing action that you could take in that moment? Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's going to a restaurant, eating by yourself, but dress up nice, dress well, dress up nice, and go to a restaurant and eat by yourself, or call a friend. Like, get into relational contact, get into the practice of being, and actually there's a question I have for you. Do you have close friends in your life?
I've got very close friends in my life, best friends of 40 years. My daughter's 23. She's damn near my best friend. But
right.
And locally, I've got friends. I call someone and I could call them and go out to dinner. And I'm
right.
always like, all right, I'm going to go out to dinner Friday night. I'm going to call my boy. We're going to go out to dinner. And then Thursday rolls around. And I'm like, fuck, I'm tired.
Yeah. And genuinely, you probably are, right?
But it's like you said, it's an excuse.
And it's not just an excuse. Like, this is the power of the ego, man. This is the power of us being in contracted fear that lives within us. You have purposely gone hard all week because you know that when you get to Thursday, you genuinely are going to be tired. It's not that you're being fake. You're tired. So there's another thing. Like, how do you create a little more space in your week for you? And I get it. You're building business. I'm building business too. Like, I've been doing it for many years as well. I totally get, not as long as you, of course, I'm younger, but I totally get the energetic of where you're coming from. And I'm learning in my life, and I'm grateful I'm learning this now, that if I don't create space in my day, all I do is fucking go, go, go. And when it comes to actually fulfilling something I truly desire, that's also really edgy for me, it's convenient for me. I'm speaking for myself as I'm hearing myself in you as well. It's convenient for me to go, I'll next week. We've got to make those changes, man. You've got to notice, like, you have enough self-awareness. You have a practice of self-awareness that's very evident. Use it to your advantage now. Okay. So Monday to Thursday, I'm working 15 hours a week, 15 hours a day. Maybe I need to just cut that back to 12 or 13. Maybe I need to delegate a little more. Maybe I can create some space and gaps here. Maybe I can take 30 minutes in my day to just actually lay down and listen to some binaural beats or whatever to replenish myself, whatever it may be, right? But it's the act of receiving, and it's the act of doing something different that is breaking the pattern of you being in survival mode, like this covert survival mode that you're in.
It's covert. And I tell you, you just struck two amazing points, practical points. Number one is that you've got to do something to break the cycle. Go for a walk, call a friend. That's on the spot. Do that or schedule it. That's a great one.
100%.
The one thing that really was insightful was make sure that you give yourself the time in preparation for that, where you don't make the excuse or justify not doing it. That's a big one, because until you said it, I didn't realize it. I'm doing exactly what you said, brother. I'm doing exactly what you said. Right down to the next week. Exactly what you said. Yeah. So those are two super important things. The self-awareness component, once you can find it, you'll realize when that you're going too hard. You need to give yourself some space, plan on doing something, and then just execute. I talk about it all the time. There's another couple of things you said that are critical. One of my favorite, I live my life by a series of these axioms from all the books I've read. One of my favorite, and I fall victim to it endlessly, is ego is the enemy. And it's true, but sometimes I'm a slave to it. Sometimes it gets me in trouble. Sometimes it protects me. But
it always protects you, actually. It always protects the version of you that it thinks needs to live. Always. That's what it does. And the number one tool of the ego is control. It does it through control. It does it through manipulation. There's two sides to that coin. Yes, treat the ego as the enemy. And the ego is simply an extension of... I heard Matt Kahn say this once, and it really resonated with me. He says, like, the ego is the soul in its infancy. It's the part of the soul that's maybe... I'm sort of adding something to this. It's fractured off, and it's disassociated, doesn't know where it is, and so it makes its own way. Just like a boy... like yourself, that didn't have a path, didn't have a father, right? Didn't have a father to show him the way from when you were born. Because if he's in drugs and if he's in the underworld and that kind of life, like, you never really had that example of stability and consistency and love and guidance and structure and being held. And your mum's too busy surviving as well, trying to keep it all together too. So it's like the ego's sort of that. It's like, doesn't know where it is, so it's just going to make it shit up, its own shit up as we go. So a boy, when he's disconnected from a rite of passage and a father and a group of men that can oversee his development, he just makes shit up as he goes, hormonally, physiologically, psychologically, and it's usually in extremes. It's like, look at me, I'm worthy, look at me, and you'll do it. We will do it for the rest of our lives until we keep that shit in check.
That's a piercing glimpse into, I think, what a lot of people are going through. It's that daily toiling, right? Everybody on some level's got to be toiling like this. And the key becomes transitioning from that fear and that flight and finding the homeostasis and the harmony with the mind, the body, and the soul, because they're all hopelessly intertwined. And that's, again, where your teachings in your book come into foray, comes into perfect focus. You help tie these things together, and even all the way through sexuality, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal too, because especially for men, your sexuality, it doesn't matter how much we think, we're tough guys and we like to do this. Our ability to perform sexually has a shit ton to do with the way we feel in here. I know every guy is watching this, whether he's going to admit it or not, has seen that and experienced it. And so, what you're suggesting, it's from top to bottom important, especially for guys, because of the reliance that we have on our physiology and our nervous system to perform. And that's an interesting component, right? And now, when you're working with couples, does that stuff come up? Like, is it that at that base of a level where you'll dive in that deep and try to identify these things, the core problems, and breaking these patterns? And that's got to be a tough road to hoe when you're working with couples.
Yeah, yes, the answer is yes, because for me, the more variables add complexity, like the more people involved, like one person, complexity, layers, just to that individual. Bring another person, the layers or the complexity doesn't double, it multiplies in magnitudes. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how much, because of all those layers, and then how those layers within that individual, both conscious and unconscious, are interacting with each other at so many different stages of the relationship, even just throughout the day itself, right? Like, you look at a man's hormonal profile, a woman's hormonal profile, just at a physiological level, how they're interacting with each other, let alone all the historical stuff that's there between them as individuals, the unprocessed, unresolved traumas, how their traumas or intensities match each other to have an opportunity to grow with each other, to change those. Because I think something that this is really worth saying, and this could really ring true for you as well, almost everything we do in life, especially if it's unconscious to us, is, because our brains are wired for move away from pain. And then as a result of that, like seek pleasure, right? But everything we do is essentially moving away from disempowerment to empowerment. And so we want a sense of empowerment. Now, we either do that in a healthy way, simply speaking, in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. And so like if you're, for example, just take yourself, if you're building companies and you're just constantly doing that, my guess is the chances are that's a compensatory strategy to feel a particular way. I'm not saying what you're doing is bad or don't build businesses. Not at all. Don't make money. The issue is that wealthy people have 1,000,001 ways to hide, right? It's because it's very easy because we can get distracted. We have access to resources. We create experiences for ourselves. Nothing wrong with any of that. I love it. However, what's the come from? And so when we hide in so many different ways, we lose our true self, right? And so when you bring that in a couple situation, both people are hiding, it adds a lot of complexity. And so for me, we have to go deep, and slow is smooth, smooth is fast. For example, I didn't say to you, hey man, get in a dating app, start going to see women. I just said to you, just go for a walk. Like go to a restaurant by yourself and eat. Just be in the world a little more and just feel like what's happening. Do you feel nervous? Do you feel tense? How does that feel? Just go ring a friend, like be with people that are familiar. I didn't say to you, go find a stranger and have sex with her or go visit a prostitute or anything like that. I don't need you jumping into intimacy or sexuality or faux sexuality or anything like that. And by the way, I wouldn't recommend, paying for intimacy or a sense of intimacy or what you think may be intimacy, right? Because that's a big confusion that we make as well, that one night stands, casual sex, like it's intimacy. Yes, there's intimacy there, there's connection there, there's two bodies merging, there's people coming together. But again, like that is, and I've lived this life, man, I've been down that track. That is us compensating, hoping to find in this one night stand, this casual encounter of peak intensity with novelty and variety, hoping to find a sense of, can she see me or can he see me? Can they really feel me? But you can never get there because your intention isn't aligned with your action and you're still harboring a lot of pain and fear. But again, I just want you to notice, like, what was the guide? Not that my guidance is completely accurate, but the guidance I gave you was an entry point into, okay, you're staying at home, you're recluse, you're going to the gym, or you're maybe you've got a gym at home, but you're training your body, you're dialed in your nutrition, you're focused on your business. And then you're staying at home, right? And you'll spend time with your friends where it's adequate. Mm-hmm. I just said, get out of home a little bit. Get in nature a little bit. Put your feet, where do you live?
I live in Delray Beach, Florida, so there's always green grass down here.
Beautiful. Is Delray on the ocean?
Yeah, I'm just minutes from the beach. I'm about 40 minutes north of Miami.
Awesome. So put your feet in the sand. Get into the ocean a little more. Like that's going, because then you're actually, for me, man, and I share this in the book and I share this often, like the ocean has saved my life. Meaningfully has saved my life. Mother Nature is, and in some cultures, nature is considered the masculine. Put that aside for a second. Like we know it as the feminine. Nature is the feminine, ever moving, right? Let her take you for a moment. Connect to that feminine, that beautiful, reliable feminine that is so nurturing, that will hold you. The ocean will hold you, man. Like, start feeling safety in the feminine with nature, which is outside of yourself, and then within, by being more in self-care. When I said to you, hey, create some space for yourself, do something kind for yourself, that's you nurturing yourself. That's you learning how to receive love and appreciation from yourself. When I said to you in very subtle ways, hey, acknowledge. Have you really acknowledged? I mean, I hear you say, hey, I started my first business when I was 22 and you're proud of it. But have you really sat with that 22-year-old version of yourself and said, you're a fucking boss. I'm so proud of. No, you haven't.
Never.
You're not receiving, you're not acknowledging. That's you not caring about yourself. That's you not accessing the feminine, because the feminine has been so estranged in your life, as has the masculine in many ways. And thankfully for you, from what I understand in this conversation exploration is, you're not a misogynist. You don't hate women. You're scared though.
Yep.
And that's okay. Like we all are, man. I've been there. And even still today, like when some of my mum's stuff comes up in my relationship, I push my wife away. I'm like, no, I'm not going to let you get too close. Because I don't know if I trust that right now. In moments, right? But we can come back. And that's the dynamic play of healthy, conscious relationships, where you're aware of your stuff and you act differently to it. So moving from disempowerment to empowerment. Very powerful practices if you commit to them.
It's interesting that all of what you're saying, because what I love about what you're teaching today is it's really, again, not magnificent ocean boiling action, just, slow, smooth as fast, Navy SEALs, love it. Everything's about small incremental steps. Love it. It's gotten me to where I am today. So, but you're still focused on action, right? So a part of me now that you're saying this, I thought I was such a badass because I was focusing on self-awareness, right? I'm reading the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. I'm so trying to be so self-aware. I'm going to find the next level. But that was in and of itself, that was an excuse. Read another book was in and of itself an excuse to not have to take an action that you're talking about.
Keeps you in the trap.
You're spot fucking on. This is so, not sure I like this, but yeah, I love being called out because I've spoken with a lot of people in my life. I'm old as can be, and this is really piercing. It's really piercing how it's just kind of nailing and espousing the way I've conducted myself, and you don't even know me. It's crazy. It's great. And again, when you're talking to couples, and this is what I find myself in certain conversations, not only am I closed off because of the stuff that I've been through with me, but I'm also closed off because of what I want that other person to think or not think. Like exactly what you just said. Sometimes you even with your wife, you're like, not so much. So it's kind of a double-edged thrust of the knife when you're having to deal with couples, or when there's a man-woman dynamic and they're involved. And that's interesting to know when I finally engage and this stuff comes up. I mean, you got to know that stuff because, again, just really important. It is about you and your unresolved trauma, but then there's also that perception of you and that unresolved trauma that you want this other person to see. It's another set of dynamics that have to be contended with, and it all impacts your mind and your body and your soul and your gut, and so that's why it's so relevant. Because without that, you're never going to try and find true well-being, which is what you're all about. You're just all about well-being. It's an amazing concept.
Yeah, just moving from disempowerment to empowerment in as many areas of our lives, consciously and unconsciously, that we can. And when I work with couples, the greater focus is on the individual, man, because it's the individual you that you're bringing into relationships. So from a ratio perspective, I've been, teaching, coaching, supporting for 25 years. From a ratio perspective, I work far more with individuals than couples. But it's the individual self the versions of self that you bring into relationship that define the quality of the relationship, and the willingness that people have. And this is just for their own lives as well, not just the relationship. The willingness that you have to traverse discomfort and move from habitual patterning that is not productive for you anymore. It's not in alignment with who you are and who you want to be. And the willingness to go and traverse that over time, life changes. And over time, that fear, if you want to stay home, it's not because there's an underlying fear or you're being a recluse, because you're choosing to do that from a place of, this is the choice I just want to make right now. It's not coming from a compensation of, stacked over a couple of years, like you mentioned, like, man, I'm not opening up to the world in that way, but I really want to. That's the challenge, is so many people want something and they deeply desire it, and they're in the longing for it, which is nothing wrong with that. Yet they don't allow themselves to embody it or pursue it or be open to it because they're so contracted by old stuff that's unresolved.
Really, really important. It's really, and that's where folks like you are pivotal, right? I mean, you're a behavioral scientist, and you're a relational instructor, and the well-roundedness that you have as people are dealing with this, I think is so critically important. And, you know, I've talked to people who are, you know, the Freudian psychiatrists, right? And it's such a tunnel. And it's, in the end of the day, it's so fucking myopic. It doesn't account for today's times. It doesn't account for the amoebic nature of our lives. It doesn't account for all of these dynamics that we're faced with. It's archaic. It's one-sided. And so that's why I lean your way with this stuff. And I think that's where people can find, you know, this book is instrumental in helping to get somebody there, because it helps you start to open up and it gives you the little steps. Brett Gleason wrote a book. I don't know if you know Brent, but he, former Navy SEAL. I was introduced to him by Michael Osterlank. And he just wrote a book, and he talks a lot about these things. And he's from a business standpoint, though. He's a big business. He's had companies on the Inc. 500, big business guy. He kind of talks about it in that slant, and you're talking about it more on the personal end, which for me is striking particular chords, because I didn't even realize those chords were there until you started striking them. And I think that's going to be a lot of what happens with our listeners today. Nobody's going to even realize those chords were there until you're striking them. And that's where I find the value. And even when you're talking about, you know, when you eventually do talk to that person, there's I know you talk about co-regulation, right? In relationships. That starts when a relationship is brand new as well as mature and tenured. Is that right? Where it's not necessarily a boundary where it's a hard and fast, but if you're cognizant of co-regulation from the jump, it's probably got to help your chances for success, and it's got to make you a little bit more receptive to what's going on in these new and honeymoon type times, right? Does it work like that?
Yeah. So it's a really interesting question that you're asking, and I'll address something else that could be of value to your audience, and I'll come back to the co-regulation piece. A big part of my role when, you know, as a high performance coach, if you can put a label on me, right, is helping people see the nuances and helping people see the unseen that live in the patterns of their lives. Because when we have access to, like realizations like some that you're having right now, it makes the pattern and behavior and the way of being, thinking, feeling accessible. When something's accessible, it's now malleable. When it's malleable, we feel we can touch, because we're such material beings, we feel we can touch it, we can be with it. Now we feel we can impact it, or we can possibly change it. So it increases what I call intelligent hope. So now we become naturally a little more willing, we lean in. It's not so much out on the periphery or out of our reach. And it's closer to us, so we think, like we can build more confidence. You know how important confidence is for taking action and forward momentum, right? So that's a very important connection. It's not just about building self-awareness. It's about actually cultivating confidence to initiate a different kind of action and way of being with self and the world. That's on the seen and the unseen and seen. On co-regulation, let's maybe define it for a second. So I mentioned earlier we're relational beings, right? This is an important part of our human development, our humanity as it's developed over spans of hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years as hominoids, right? We not only, and I share this often, yes, we've discovered psychotropic substances. We've, the advent of eating cooked meat, discovering fire, and all of these evolution, the development of our prefrontal cortex, all these evolutions that we've had over time have helped us become more aware, more conscious, more intelligent, etc. Right? The way we've evolved in our environment. I think one of those key factors that is unspoken to often, it's not spoken to enough, I should say. And there's a field for this. It's called relational neuroscience. But it's this, the way we've developed and evolved in relationships, the way that we've depended on each other. So when one person is out of whack or out of sorts or dysregulated, the other person, just by their regulation, can help bring them into homeostasis, right? And so there's this interplay, this interaction that happens when, and you would have, I'm sure if you just take a moment to reflect back in your marriage even, there were times when maybe, you were stressed and your wife said, "Hey, I got you. Like, Pete, it's all good," and hugged you, and like, in the moment, because physiological stuff is happening, the release of oxytocin, like your amygdala's calming down, and there would have been times where maybe she was anxious, and you looked at her and you said, "I've got you," and that supported her. or you just said, hey, how can I be here for you? Or you just held her, or whatever happened, right? And so this ability to co-regulate is important, but what amplifies co-regulation is knowing each other, knowing ourselves, obviously, knowing our own wounds and our own patterns, and how we behave under pressure, how we react, how we're defensive, what our survival patterns are, because everyone's survival patterns can be similar but also different. And an example of a survival pattern may be, hey, the going gets tough and I get going, I get out. Or the going gets tough and the tough gets going, like I stay in it. You can have anxious attachment. You can have avoidant attachment. You can have defensiveness. You can have being shut down. You can have being emotionally abusive. You can have manipulation. You can have gaslighting. These are all defense strategies, right? These are all ways of reacting. When I'm under pressure, how do I respond or react to the world? At the moment we are in reaction or survival, we're dysregulated. Again, physiologically, psychologically, emotionally, relationally. So co-regulation comes in where we're, for lack of a better term, using each other, but in very deliberate, intentional ways. We don't want to do it from a place of covert manipulation. We want to, I'm going to feed off this person so I can feel better. You want to have agreements in place. You want to have, hey, if I'm under-resourced, can you support me? Absolutely, I will. I love you and I care for you and I will. This is what it looks like. Yes, there's boundaries, there's agreements, there's all of that, but you're really just supporting each other because, man, life's going to be tough. It's going to be easy. It's going to be tough. It's going to be great. It's going to be shit. It's going to be profound and surprising and mysterious. It's going to be mundane and boring. It's going to be everything. And so in the times where we're in survival and we're dysregulated, can we rely on someone else to support us through that? Now, here's the additional value that is probably even more important. Remember what I said to you at the beginning? I said most intensity or wounds, they occur in a relational context. Like, for example, your mother leaving you because of her own drug addiction, that was in a relational context, right? You being bullied, I was also bullied as a kid. Us being bullied, that's in a relational context, right? And so I also then said, most wounds are relational, if not all, really. Everything's a relationship. Sitting on a chair, relationship, right? Microphone, me talking, a relationship. Right. Therefore, it has to really heal in a relational context. Being witnessed without judgment and compassion goes a very long way because it rewrites the story of, oh, I'm not a worthless piece of shit. I'm sharing with this person my deepest, darkest things, and they're actually meeting me and not neglecting me or abandoning me like I once was. Now, at the beginning, most people won't believe that. Like, I can't trust that. But it happens enough times, like, I can trust people. You're rewriting stories. You're literally rewriting your history. You're changing your relationship to women aren't safe. This is massive, Pete, and it goes really deep, man. Like, it goes a lot deeper than what I'm trying to simplify something very complex. I hope it's coming across in a digestible way. Yeah.
Perfect.
This is powerful, man. This is life.
Yeah.
We do this and the whole world changes.
But you couldn't have been more poignant. You do this and your whole world changes. That's just a fact. And you're right. I mean, since the dawn of time, we have been relational creatures. We've relied on ourselves to survive, to exist, to thrive, to move forward, to coddle. I mean, it's just the way it is. And more and more nowadays with the advent of social media, it's easier and easier to become an island, man, especially if you want to be a gamer, because you're still technically talking to people for 24 hours straight. So technically it's fellowship, but that's not fellowship. And and nowadays with, the advent of ChatGPT, you can get the answer and you don't have to learn anything. So less and less do we need to learn or be in touch with our instincts. We've always got some fucking false prophet on every corner of the internet telling us how we need to feel, what we need to do, right? Yeah. And so buy this supplement, you'll feel great. You sling this kettlebell and you'll feel awesome in 10 days. It's all bullshit. And the only way to do it is exactly how you've described and exactly what you put forth in your book. It's got to be a component of self-awareness. That's where it starts. But then there's got to be incremental action. And that's what really
persistence.
Yeah, that's what I love when you said it. That's what becomes empowering, and you nailed it. It becomes empowering. It doesn't become a vulnerability. And when you said that about my marriage, it's like we're a part of it. It's spot on. There were good years in the marriage, and the times that were good. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, just raising our daughter. the fact that she took care of the home and she cooked meals, not because she felt she had to or she was a slave, but because she wanted to take care of her family, that enabled me to go out and conquer the world without distraction. I didn't come home to freaking dog shit on the floor and pots and pans in the sink. Just that, the comfort of knowing that my home was taken care of and loved and my daughter was being provided for by her mom, that enabled me to do what I got to do. It was if people say 50-50 relationship, I think she was more like 75% of it during that time, because I'm just out making sure that we can go on vacation and we got nice cars and shit. But she's really the glue that holds the whole thing together. And that to me is more important, more than 50%. And it's exactly what you said. There were times when I was down and she just knew it and just would give me a pat on the ass and say, you got this, bro. That was enough. That was enough. And so again, the co-regulation, it sounds technical, but it's really not. It's just you feel your way into that. It varies by couple. It varies by person. It varies by minute, day, hour, mood, season of the year. But as long as there's that component of love and dynamic and intimacy where you've gotten in touch with your inner self on some level and you can bring that forth, your whole world gets better. You nailed it. Your whole world gets better.
Yeah, and this is, and again, you can co-regulate with any human, a friend, a brother, a sister, just any human to human contact. It matters a great deal, and often, and again, healthy communication, open communication, knowing you can trust the person. They're not going to, and if they do judge or if they do react, they're going to come back to homeostasis. You have an experience of that, because it's okay for people to get angry, man. It's okay for us to react and go to our shadow self. Like, that happens. It's when it happens too often. It's when it happens, too consistently, when there's no commitment to change. That's when it really becomes a problem. But repair is part of life, man. And in fact, repair is part of the co-regulation process. And so most of this stuff is amplified in romantic partnership and romantic intimate partnerships, but this is experienced in every relational dynamic in the world.
It's so important that you said this. It's not always wine and roses, and I understand you and you understand me. There's going to be fights. We are not perfect creatures. We have our moods. We don't sleep right. We don't eat right. We're stressed the fuck out. But you nailed it. It comes back to homeostasis, right? That wasn't the end of my marriage. That was early. That was actually early on. So had a lot of good years, man.
20 years, you said.
We were together for almost 20 years. Yeah, man. And
when did you divorce?
18 of them were awesome. I've been divorced for about 8 years now.
Okay. So you were together from like your early 30s, right?
30s, 40s, and maybe, I don't know barely into my 50s. Yeah. So my daughter's going to be 23. She was 15 when we got divorced. I actually had sole custody. So that's a whole nother fucking story. But it's been my daughter and I for 8 years by ourselves now, and it's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. She's the queen. But yeah, I know where you're going with this, and I had a lot of good years, man. Totally blessed that I was able to actually experience that family thing. I actually have a daughter who's a fucking beast. And I'm so lucky. And then, so here's another thing that you just uncovered that I didn't even realize. I think I use that as a justification too when I'm sitting home and I'm reclusive. Man, I had an awesome family for decades. My daughter has graduated from a top 10 business school, got a killer job, D1 tennis player. Everybody loves her. Man, I did it. If I want to stay home, if I want to die alone, whatever. I'll read a book and I'll get more self-aware, and that's my excuse. So, man, what you've given to me today, and I hope you're giving to other people, is that, boy, we can find excuse. You're not calling excuses because you're a gentleman. I'm going to call myself out. I can find excuses anywhere, and that's what I realize now I have been doing, thanks to you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, man. I appreciate that, but it's thanks to you. It's like and I'm not deflecting. I receive what you've shared, and I just want to, where I was also going with that, which you've already touched on, is like, you had overall like a really 18 years of a great relationship, and you raised a daughter and you did that together in your own ways, and there's lots of nuances, I'm sure, right? And you did what your parents couldn't do. Like, yes, you both chose to divorce, and these things happen. Like, I get that, and we can go into the intricacies of that another time, maybe. But you did what your parents couldn't do. You broke a generational pattern, and that's a very big thing, man. And at the same time, while I want to also invite you into the world, right, and invite you to not be in contraction and disempowerment, because empowerment just feels a lot better and it's more of our natural state. I also want to acknowledge that you may be a little tired too. They're not just excuses. They're both and, right? And you get to learn, this is part of your growth, all of our growth journey. Like and this is a very important word, discernment. You get to discern, am I coming from a convenient pattern of protection, or majority of this action, or is the majority of the action coming from, hey, I'm genuinely tired? And you got to learn to get honest with yourself. And when you are in that practice, like that's a practice of itself, in and of itself. And you go like, oh no, I'm making a convenient protective. This is a convenient protective strategy. Time for me to get up and get out. Like, even if it's just going for a half an hour walk on the beach, being surrounded by people walking back and forth. Hello to him, hello to her. Come back home. You've broken a pattern.
It's funny you say that, because I went through a period. I lived in Miami before I moved up to Delray, and I was even closer to the beach. And I went through a period where in the afternoon, when I knew it wasn't going to be packed or anything, I'd just go to the beach just for a second, just no AirPods, just listen to the waves. And you said it saved your life, and I can respect and understand that, because I remember those times so fondly. And I didn't stay there for 15 hours. I went down there for maybe a half an hour and just listened to the waves and watched the ocean. It was peaceful. It was grounding. It was beautiful. And I stopped taking any action at all, and I got to get back into it. That's where your book is so crucial. It's packed full of tools. The way you approach it, the way you approach it is masterful, and that's where I think it's a must read, right? It's just a must read. So thank you. I love that part, and man, you got to tell everybody where we can get it. You got to tell everybody where they can get it. We'll put it up on the screen. Yeah, thank you, man. So tuned in and turnedonbook.com. And again, when you go there, look, you can get it from Amazon, you can get it from Barnes & Noble, you can get it from any major retailer. That's not an issue. But if you go through tuned in and turnedonbook.com, you'll get a stack of bonuses. And you can still get it through Amazon there as well. And the Audible's available. I recorded the Audible. It's about 11 hours. And there are a stack even more bonuses in the Audible, because when I read it, I'd actually finished writing the book like a year earlier, and I read did the audio on it a year later, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, I gotta add this here, I gotta add that, because I'd grown so much in a year. Honestly, I mean, it was just so. There's even more commentary in the Audible version, so feel free to get it there as well. I like the Audible. I love the audiobooks because of the commentary components, especially when the author reads. Brent Gleason, the guy, he did his audiobook too. It's so nice to hear the person speaking. And, Robert Greene doesn't do his, which pisses me off, but I still, you got to love Robert Greene no matter 100%. What. So it is what it is, right? He's awesome. Yeah. So we're going to make sure everybody gets this and sees this and understands this. Because this today for me, I feel like it's been epiphany after catharsis after epiphany. And I'm super excited. I think I'm going to take myself to lunch. I'm just going to go sit at the bar. I'm just going to go sit at the fucking bar and have lunch. Great. I'm already dressed up. Yeah. Why not? Man, I'll tell you what, this is good stuff, and I would love to have you back, my friend. This has been incredibly powerful for me, and I know for other people, because you and I basically just vibed about what's going on in my life, and I hope people can find some synergy with that. Yeah, I appreciate your openness, man. I think that's what people are going to really relate to. Right? You and I are not that dissimilar. We've had different upbringings, so to speak, but again, like in terms of the energetic signature of the volatility, of the violence, it's not that much different. So when there's relatability, man, there's often an openness there. And so, I really appreciate your openness and showing. I think it will add a stack of value to people that are listening. Man, you're the way you handled it, just a masterclass. I appreciate you. I really do. I'm grateful to you for today, man. And let's try this again. For sure. All right, man. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. That brings to a close another episode of the SuperSelf Podcast Series, brought to you by Jocko Rare Sugar. Here, we are going to be helping you discover the truth for all things that surround good health and well-being. We'll be offering you statistical data, clinical trial information that has been evaluated and corroborated so that you can see for yourself that we say what we mean and we mean what we say. Now, while the SuperSelf series is brought to you technically by Jocko Rare Sugar, I don't care if you buy the sugar. I really don't. That's not what this is about. This is about operating as the conscience across the food and beverage industry, across the health and well-being industry, which includes supplements, fitness trainers, and the like. Our goal is to provide you with the stepping stones for your own research, where you can go out and corroborate the things that we say on your own. See for yourself what it means to find a good quality of life that fits in alongside your current lifestyle or your family's lifestyle. I think it's really going to be interesting and fascinating if we take this journey together. And once again, our goal is not just to provide you with data, but to keep it interesting. I've been living a clean lifestyle for 40 years now. I've been going to the gym for almost 45 years, eating clean for 40 years. And so we're going to have a ton of stories along the way about the foibles, the successes, and the failures, but we're also going to provide you with the information that you need to carry on and carry forward. Think about subscribing. We'd love it if you subscribe to us, pass this on to your friends. I think we've got a lot of edgy and interesting podcasts that are upcoming, and we certainly will look forward to any feedback that you want to provide. Until next time, cheers.